Lauren Boebert posted something dangerous, insane, and very Lauren Boebert. So I'll show that for you. Actually, a few different things that she's recently posted I do want to talk about. And then we'll refute one of the things she says with some videos. But the first thing is this. She said, "I wonder what could have caused Joe Biden's rapid physical and cognitive decline," and a little thinking face. And attached, I'll describe for our podcast listeners, are photos of Joe Biden getting vaccines, getting his boosters, and she's trying to allude to the idea that the COVID-19 vaccine is causing decline in Biden. Now, the anti-medical professional, the anti-science, just generally anti-empiricism phenomenon right now within MAGA is extremely concerning. We talked more in depth about that in a recent segment. Just when you start attacking the very notion that expertise is valuable, that education is valuable, you end up with Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and some folks like that in positions of power. And this is a good example of that, where the people getting hurt the most by medical misinformation, for example, spewing out of the mouths of people in MAGA. Maybe she thinks it's just a funny joke, but obviously it's premised on the idea that the vaccine is doing something to people that they are not telling you about. As we've looked at, Republicans were dying, especially post-vaccine rollout, because that became something that was a politicized decision, many of them not getting the vaccine because of this sort of rhetoric, started dying at twice the rates of Democrats from COVID-19. It didn't have to be like that. So this is very real, even if she thinks she's being sort of silly. And also, haven't they been saying for years now, before the vaccine, that Biden was declining? That was one of their attacks against Biden during the campaign before the vaccine was rolled out. And so that's also a contradiction. But she then posted this. "Where are the 81 million voters that Joe Biden got in 2020? Why aren't they furious about the Democratic coup going on to oust the most popular president of all time? Find me a single person who has described Biden as the most popular president of all time." No one thinks that's the case. We can see approval ratings. There have been statements like I've made on policy, on paper. He's been one of the most successful presidents in decades. But most popular? Nah, I mean, the right wing has been really effective in, and I will say in a more fair way, also just the post-pandemic conditions that any president would have dealt with, but Biden had to be the guy, also have contributed to him actually being pretty unpopular in the approval ratings. And I guess what she's referencing is Biden got more votes than any presidential candidate in history, which there was record turnout, yes, and they never seemed to contend with the fact that maybe he got so many votes, in part because people saw an affirmative case for him, but a lot of it was an anti-Trump case too. So maybe the reason people were so motivated, 81 million, so motivated in record numbers to vote, was because we were experiencing an unprecedented crisis, and the president at that time was failing us in their handling of it. Then Lauren Boebert posted this. 198 Democrats went on the record in favor of illegal aliens voting. Absolutely treasonous behavior. Before responding, 14,000 people liked this. So just for all of these posts, she's not posting it into the abyss. People are resonating with this garbage. But the thing she's referencing is a SAVE Act. Pretending like you think Democrats voting against that legislation is them voting in favor of undocumented immigrants voting or in favor of non-citizens voting, you're just being dishonest, because they're attempting to slap down a stunt by y'all to convince people through this legislative action that the law currently stands in a way that it doesn't. That right now it's legal for non-citizens to vote. By you trying to make it illegal when it already is, if Democrats were to support that, they're affirming the case you're making that the reason this legislation is necessary is because before, like during the 2020 election, which is what you really want to be pushing on this, there was more of an ability either for fraud or for legal voting of non-citizens in the presidential elections. And that's just, of course, inaccurate. And so them slapping down your stunt is not them voting in favor of something being legal when it's already illegal. So insane. And her calling this treasonous is extremely dangerous because constantly within MAGA, they say this person's guilty of treason and the punishment for treason is death. So very violent stuff there. Then she wrote, Biden has said many times he's running for the presidency and isn't dropping out. Pelosi just told Morning Joe he needs to make a decision. She knows what he said. She doesn't like the answer. Meanwhile, the GOP is 100% united around Trump. Oh, and this is one thing that I wanted to respond to with the 81 million people. Why aren't they upset with the Democratic coup? First of all, if you look online, people are upset. Some people are upset that people are talking about switching out Biden. But also, more fundamentally, the reason why we're even able to express doubts about our quote-unquote guy, the person currently leading the movement with being at the top of the ticket, is because we're not a cult like you, right? We can doubt. We can question what's the best way to get to the best outcome. We don't fixate on a person, but policy, and our priorities being uplifting the American people, protecting democracy. So those being the characteristics of our movement yields itself to introspection, to humility and doubt about our leaders, unlike MAGA. So that was an important takeaway from earlier, and it connects to this as well. Just a lickety-split pause to request you, if you're not already, to subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking that subscribe button. So easy and free, but it makes all the difference in the world. Appreciate it. Back to the video. But also, her saying the GOP is 100% united around Trump. Really? Are they? Because there's a whole term, anti-Trump Republicans, that defines people or describes people who are very conservative, very GOP, but have to push back against their own party because of the danger of Trump, like former Congressman Adam Kinzinger.
I'm Adam Kinzinger, and I'm a proud conservative. I always have been. As a proud conservative, I've always put democracy and our Constitution above all else. And it's because of my unwavering support for democracy that today, as a proud conservative, I'm endorsing Joe Biden for re-election. My entire life has been guided by the conviction that America is a beacon of freedom, liberty, and democracy. So while I certainly don't agree with President Biden on everything, and I never thought I'd be endorsing a Democrat for president, I know that he will always protect the very thing that makes America the best country in the world, our democracy. Donald Trump poses a direct threat to every fundamental American value. He doesn't care about our country. He doesn't care about you. He only cares about himself. And he'll hurt anyone or anything in pursuit of power. We saw that when he tried to overturn an election that he knew he lost in 2020. He attacked the foundation of this nation, encouraging a violent mob of his supporters to march on the Capitol to prevent the peaceful transition of power. Now he's become even more dangerous. He's called for termination of the Constitution. He wants to be a dictator on day one. He actually said that. And he's continuing to stoke the flames of political violence. There's too much at stake to sit on the sidelines. So to every American of every political party, and those of none, I say now is not the time to watch quietly as Donald Trump threatens the future of America. Now's the time to unite behind Joe Biden and show Donald Trump off the stage once and for all.
And I do want to be clear, just for the sake of being transparent in Adam Kinzinger's interest. This was posted shortly before the debate. He did get asked after the debate, do you regret endorsing Biden? He said, no, I don't. But he's also engaging in the conversation about would someone be better. So that is important to know. But he's supporting Biden as long as he's the guy because he understands the threat that Trump poses. So I don't know, Lauren, if the GOP is 100% united around Donald Trump. And Republican voters against Trump, the organization, makes that point clearly with this video.
A former Trump voter.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020.
In 2020, I voted for Trump again.
I will never support Donald Trump.
I will not vote for him in 2024.
He's got so much baggage.
Trump is the biggest threat to our democracy.
He kept denying.
And he lost the election.
Donald Trump was responsible for the violence of January 6th.
He could have prevented it.
Trump talking about retribution.
Retribution and going after people is disrespect of our military.
The military people that he's disgraced.
91
criminal felonies.
4 different indictments.
He mishandled classified documents.
Taking documents.
Now his desire to do away with NATO.
Donald Trump talks about abandoning Ukraine.
He said he'll be a dictator on day one.
If he's going to be a dictator on day one, he's going to be a dictator, period.
That kind of stuff scares me.
Absolutely scares me.
The second Trump term would be worse than the first.
A second term for Trump
would be far more extreme.
It is dangerous, outright dangerous.
I cannot support Donald Trump again.
I would never vote for him again.
He'll never get my vote, ever, ever.
Let me read you again what Lauren Boebert said. The GOP is 100% united around Trump. Don't ignore their voices, Lauren. You know how they love talking about the silent majority when it came to Trump? When he never got a majority of the vote. He won the election, obviously, but he's never shown himself in any of the elections that he's been associated with, directly or indirectly through the party. He's never shown himself to have a support or the support of the majority of the country. The majority of the country values democracy. The majority of the country values decency, values having someone who can lead with some character. And that's not something that Trump represents. And so, while yes, it's very possible he could win, that's not going to be because the majority of the country supports him. It's going to be because however many people make it possible through the Electoral College for him to win, if that were to happen, either are the minority group with the values that do align more with Trump, or they don't understand what they're voting in favor of. But a real silent majority, I think, is people who are disgusted by the ideology we're seeing from MAGA. And my hope is, regardless of who's on the other side of the election on the top of the ticket, that silent majority, some not so silent, will come out in force. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. If you want to get an extra episode of the show daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below. That supports the work that we're doing, and like I said, gives you extra content.